Oh. This is the Saline City Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Young.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Fosdick is absent. Marl.
Here.
Gearbaugh.
Here.
Heft. Here. Laporte.
Staff present tonight are Community Development Director Atkin, Recording Secretary Katnick, and OHM Advisors MC Moritz. Is there a motion on the table to approve the agenda as amended or distributed?
I'll move to approve as amended, Madam Chair. I want to briefly discuss the ZBA appointment under the discussion portion of tonight's agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion on the table to approve the meeting minutes of November 13th, 2024 as amended or submitted?
So move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comments. The person is requested but not required to state their name and address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to new business, 25-01, election of officers. Would anybody like to be chairperson next year?
I don't, if I may, Madam Chair, I don't think that our existing officers have reached their prescribed term limits, so I would make a motion then to elect the same slate to serve in 2025 as served in 2024. So I believe that's, for the record, that's Young as chairperson, Carroll as vice chair, and is it Fosdick as secretary treasurer?
Yes.
Okay. That's my motion. I believe Ms. Heft has seconded.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, I guess we can move all three of them and approve together. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. New business 25-02, application from AMK Holdings LLC for a combined site plan review at 6971 North Maple Road, Saline, Michigan 48176, parcel number 18-12-31-205-019. In our packet, we had a report dated December 27th, 2024 from Community Development Director Atkin and a memo dated January 2nd, 2025 from OHM Advisors Boss and Moritz.
Yeah, so this plan was brought before the Planning Commission, I think back in September. At that time, it was going to be a two-phase project. It has since changed to a single phase. So all the existing structures that are on site will be removed, same with the septic and the well, and installation of two 6,050 square foot metal structures on them. Parking be, I think there's 23 spaces total. All new pavement. There's a detention basin in the back. This will be for contractor services and some warehousing. Currently, the applicant will be occupying half of the westernmost building, which will be as closest to North Maple. The other half will be, for lack of a better term, white box, and so will the back unit or back structure. There'll be 3 separate units in there, so 4 will be unused but out for lease for similar type uses in the future. There are some parking based on what the ordinance states. There's a bit of a gap in what is required versus what is going to be offered there. It's proposed on the site. I think it was a difference, 13 spaces versus 23. So we just wanted about the additional parking for that to be clarified. And then also, the parking spaces are in front of the overhead doors, which are built these parking spaces in front of them. The intent is behind being able to access those for landscaping, or then I added the fire chief's comments in there too about having access around all the buildings. And I believe engineering spoke to having a hydrant on the site also. Most of what is noted in our report, there's just some clarification and some, installing parking bumpers, excuse me. Then the proposed sign in front does not meet the height requirements. And when I'm thinking of it also, there's, in the previous review that was done, when there was two-phase project, the building was going to be the one building was going to be put furthest to the east, and the parking that is currently there was going to remain. And in the ordinance, it states that any parking near the right-of-way needs to be screened with a wall. So the site plan showed 2 3-foot tall walls on either side of the current entrance. Well, now that it's a single phase, the parking lot is going to set back from the road, I think 50 to 75 feet, and it's not required, since it's going to be new parking, sitting back further, that the Planning Commission has the discretion to waive that requirement. My opinion is that wall will just appear to be out of place, that close to the road, and with the parking lot being so far back, there will be landscaping along the front in the buffer, and then or in the green space there, and then also some trees in front of the parking lot that will also hide it and hide the site of it. So, but with the items to be addressed and some non-zoning related information that had height issues, we don't feel that the site plan is ready for approval to combine preliminary and final site plan. And that is also being driven by some of the comments received through the fire department and the engineering.
Thank you. Engineer Moritz, do you have anything to add?
No, not too much. I'll keep it brief. In our letter for your consideration tonight, we just had 3 comments for you to look over and discuss, and all of them are kind of connected. The first comment under general mentions that the nearest fire hydrant is on the western side of Maple Road, and so this the building and the parking lot to the east, on the eastern side of the site, both of those fall outside of the 250-foot service radius of that fire hydrant. So in our letter, we deferred to the fire department to see, if this is acceptable to them or if they have other requirements. And it looks like the fire department does want to see more coverage on the site. The second comment that we had under utilities is kind of related. Right now proposed are 2 water service leads. These are right now proposed to just be 2-inch water service leads, one going to the first building, the other going to the second building. And these leads would be 200 feet long and 300 feet long, respectively. And there's nothing in the standards that prohibits that exactly. It's just not necessarily common practice in the industry to have a water lead that long with a pipe that small. They sell those segments in 100-foot segments, so there will be some joints. We try to avoid them joints after the curb stop so you don't get leaks, essentially. But on this one, we defer to the city engineering department if they want to say that that's okay in this instance. But it seems like this comment might be a moot point because of the fire department's comments, because of wanting to have more hydrant coverage on the site. So And the final comment that we had was related to providing a turning template for emergency response vehicles, the biggest of which is obviously a fire engine. So I feel like our comments really kind of echo what the fire chief had pointed out, and will probably all be resolved by addressing what the fire department wants to see. So the rest of the comments are really construction plan level, and it was nothing major. It's just some details with stormwater management to make sure the calcs are tight and that everything lines up. And I think that's what we've got of note tonight.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Is there a motion on the table to acknowledge the receipt of the report dated December 27th from Community Development Director Atkin and the memo dated January 2nd from OHM Advisors?
I'll move to acknowledge receipt, Madam Chair.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. We will now allow the applicant developer comments, limited to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm Jack Brown. Good evening with AMK Holdings. I did receive the packet and understand all of the issues that we need to resolve. Basically just here to let you know they're in process of being resolved. So architects already sent back new elevations with different building materials on the outside to meet the criteria for what's required. And the surveyor / site plan preparer is fixing, basically per his email, all of the issues that were noted. So plan is to resubmit hopefully by next month with all the issues rectified. I'm here to answer any questions you might have from us.
Great, thank you. Questions for the developer and applicant? Yes.
What do you plan on your phasing for the construction? When will the house and such be demolished, or is that all going to happen at the same time, or are you going to continue to use some of the buildings?
Yeah, you mean what's there now?
Yep.
Yeah, we're not going to do anything with the site until we have site plan approval. But once we have site plan approval, we'll move forward with demoing and permits and utility disconnects and all that sort of stuff. But until we obtain site plan approval, we're not planning on doing anything really.
Okay, thank you.
What if the parking discrepancy between the 10 sites or 13 sites and 23 sites? What are
We're
you?
just having them removed, all the excess parking, which will take care of them being in front of the man doors. Frankly, I think that was an oversight from the site plan guy. He forgot to probably delete those. So, yeah, we're just going to remove all the ones in front of all the overhead doors. And even if he does that, there still is technically a few extra spots, but still meeting the requirements of parking.
I know not necessarily a question that you can answer right now, but how long do you think construction will last? When do you expect to be up and running?
Yeah, good question. Right now, between 12 and 18 months
Okay. And then
from start date.
got it. And then with all of your changes that your engineer is making, do you plan on having any variances that will be required for the building now with either the sign, the materials, or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay, great.
Just one other question on they mentioned that there was not any expectation there'd be any sort of delivery trucks or anything coming in. Will that be the case in the event that you're actually like leasing this out to other tenants? And there's a possibility that might change?
When you say delivery trucks, you mean like an end user that's occupying one of the spaces having deliveries made?
Well, it said in the packet about how there was no plan for there to actually be any sort of expectation of being any no receipt or distribution of trucks and or delivery vehicles are planned for this development.
I mean, besides we don't have any end users lined up for this project yet, so it would be whoever can occupy it based on light industrial zoning and what their requirements are, I suppose. But we personally don't have any for our occupant use of the first half of the building, delivery of any kind besides their Amazon UPS.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the intent behind that was when they were doing the parking calculations in the first site plan review was for loading zones for larger trucks, panel trucks, UPS trucks, that are a lot more maneuverable than,
Yeah. Just the expectation if you're leasing it out to other tenants, is there any expectation that the other tenants might have larger vehicles?
Or more frequent trips. Trips.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be something that comes down to who they rent to and the type of use. So I think it's general industrial, so there can't be any heavy machinery or anything like that in any of the uses that are permitted in the zoning district.
Additional questions for our applicant? Thank you very much. Is there a motion on the table to open the public comment at 7:15 PM?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Seeing no comments, is there a motion to close the public hearing at 7:16?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Any additional questions or comments from Planning Commission members for Community Development Director? Yes.
So the recommended action then would be to postpone to a date certain. We're not going to be recommending approval or rejection to city council.
There's no public hearing required for this, since it's just site plan review, so we don't have to, I mean, you can just postpone till whenever the applicant is prepared, but it doesn't have to be a date certain.
He said submittal within the next 30 days, so that would take us to our next regular meeting on February the 12th.
Possibly, I mean,
I already have the architectural, I literally got them today.
Okay.
With that part, the site plan, True North Surveying and Site Plan said we should have it by mid next week. And I plan on doing it.
yeah, that put us into, the next February 11th meeting or whatever the date is, yeah.
Is there any issue with the fire
I
hydrant?
did want to ask that question, I forgot. Who should I be communicating with to get affirmative requirements for the truck turnaround? The fire marshal or chief, or is that through the panel? Who should I talk to?
The fire chief is going to be the person who ultimately signs off to say, like, yes, we can.
And it's okay for me just to contact him and say, hey, can you talk me through this? Okay.
Connect you guys.
Yep.
I
If you don't have his,
early.
yep. If you don't have his contact information, we can provide it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that was the one question we had that we just need clarification on. But besides that, everything else is in process.
Yes.
Just a couple things. The aesthetics of the building and gateway and all of that, does any of that apply to this? The gateway plan?
I don't believe the gateway plan applies to this. Just standard or general building design. The aesthetics are for the North Maple side is what it would.
Being one of the concerns being that is the entryway into our community and that building's on a main road, that we're very consistent with the residential, that I think we should be somewhat consistent with this building too on that potential. So I don't know what means landscaping, setback, all of that, but I think that should be considered in the final site plan.
The landscaping and setback meet the requirements. Excuse me, the actual exterior of the building, the design of the building, certain percentages of material, they didn't meet those requirements. So I'm assuming that those would be in the architectural plans coming up, because what was submitted are just metal buildings now with no deflections or any brick or anything like that to add any aesthetic upgrades.
One thing I noticed on here, it said to make a recommendation to the Saline City Council to approve. The Saline City Council doesn't do that, so that motion is incorrect on there, right? Yeah.
Oversight.
We'll just correct that next time.
It's written as if it was a PUD,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
standard site plan.
review.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. No concerns with connecting to our water and sewer and all that on that site? I don't know what we've done out there and what we haven't.
Yeah. No question about sewer. That's also all the utilities are on the west side of North Maple Road and shouldn't be a challenge to connect to. The big question is just going to be water, to see if they do want to. It's a quite small site to do a loop on. I know that's what the correspondence from the fire chief has suggested, was doing a loop, but on this short of a run, I think the city engineer would be open to considering if you had a water main extended onto the site where there's a hydrant at the end so that they can flush that that main when they need to, and then run the service lines off of that would probably be ideal. But if I don't know if your engineer is still kind of playing around with that layout, but it might be worth a phone call to the city engineering department to see, would they be okay with a dead end on this one just because the loop would be so tight on this site?
Could a condition be made where in the future, should Leap Here redevelop their property, that somehow that would be connected to, I don't know what they're going to do in terms of their looping, because we required them to, loop their connection, but if they should develop that property, that this get connected into it, so just looking forward to the future.
Yeah.
The property to the north?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because all of these dead ends like this have always been a problem for our water system.
It doesn't, 10 years later, you're kicking yourself kind of thing. Yeah. So in this instance, because it is kind of this in-between distance, I don't want to promise that, a loop would be absolutely required or that a dead end would be absolutely permitted, but I think it would be worth a phone call with the city engineering department to say, in this exact layout, what would be acceptable.
Fair enough.
Just the one last thing, knowing the entrance for where this property has and Maplewood entrance, is there any concern with that intersection, that cross right there? It's offset. I didn't know how much the distance is from there, whether that'll be an issue for traffic flow.
Yeah, and are you referring to, I think it's what will be a dentist on that other side of the road?
Next to it, well, there is the entrance of Maplewood, and then you go down there, but yeah, I guess it would be both of that whole area. Is there any concern with the entrance into Maplewood or Woodland Drive? And
We don't anticipate this generating a lot of traffic. It seems that,
well, knowing the issue with the schools and how they're redesigning all of that area and all this, knowing that this is not one of the other businesses that we have on that's not residential, so just
Yeah.
understanding the frequency and so forth.
considering the size, and there's
Looks like,
essentially 5 units, or 6 units.
Well, it also remains to be seen. One thing is, we're not demising the sides of the front building where we're going to occupy half. The back building's not going to be demised until we find an end user.
Yeah.
It could be one for the entire building, it could be in half, it could be thirds. We're designing it to be thirds, but someone could still take half with 2 man doors. So the number of end users still remains to be seen.
Yeah, I don't anticipate the type of use that's going in there is going to generate a lot of traffic, a lot of trips. Right, a lot coming in the morning and leaving in the afternoon or in the evening.
Okay, that's it for me.
Additional questions or comments?
Then noting the recommendation from staff and the comment from the petitioner, Madam Chair, I would move to postpone consideration to a date certain of February 12th, 2025, here in council chambers at 7 p.m.
Additional discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. New business 25-03, Planning Commission bylaws. Is there a motion on the table to approve as presented, as amended, the Saline Planning Commission bylaws? Actually, I'll let you.
Accept receipt right now if we want to have discussion on it
Yes,
first.
absolutely.
Yeah, this is driven by reduced.
Hold on one second.
I moved it, Cheryl seconded.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. On to you.
So the reduction in number of planning commissions from 9 to 7, the ordinance was adopted or amended in the general code Monday evening, and then which drove the bylaws to need to be amended as well. And I took the liberty of, there were some that were passed, I think it was in 2021. In reading through those, I didn't feel that they were a good representation of the Planning Enabling Act and the Zoning Enabling Act. There was some important information that was left out, and I think having them in the bylaws in everybody's forefront and as opposed to referencing those two acts when necessary to have them all in one place. There are certain things in there that just reference those specific acts, but those references are to lesser used sections of those laws. So I rearranged them as you see in front of you with the red line. Then there's more additions than there are other revisions in there, just to kind of spell out how this commission is to function moving forward. So, but I didn't put anything in there that hasn't been followed by the Planning Commission.
Questions and comments?
Was there anything significant, and this is for you, Chris, that changed or anything that, I mean, you just kind of summarized that, but anything that's been taken out of here? Because I went through the red line version and it seemed like a lot of paragraphs were struck out, but it was really just reorganizing within the articles, wasn't it?
Yeah, most of it was reorganizing. The one section that I did add was for, I added about proxy voting, ex parte communications, and work session agenda. But other than that, there's nothing outstanding in there or anything in there that changes.
And nothing that we were doing that we shouldn't be doing going forward, or should be doing that we weren't
It's
doing?
taken care of.
Okay. Article 11, which talks about, let me get down here again. It's basically the order of business. Is that our form of business, or is that the recommendation from the Act? It just lists call to order, pledge of allegiance, roll call, all of that. I was just curious.
That's our current order.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments?
There's no additional discussion, Madam Chair. I'd move to amend. To approve
As presented?
as presented, yes, excuse me.
Second.
Additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. 25-04, 2024 Annual Report. Is there a motion on the table to accept with or without amendment and authorize Recording Secretary Katnick to forward the 2024 Annual Report to Saline City Council? Unless you'd like to discuss it,
We
Mr.
can discuss it real quick before there's a motion, that's fine.
I was only here for one meeting in 24, so. Yeah, I can-
I'm the one that wrote it.
It was pretty, I reviewed the minutes from all of the meetings that were here. I didn't see anything that jumped out as being incorrect on it, but if there's anything else that you'd like to add. We did have one preliminary site application, one final site application, 3 combined preliminary final site applications, 1 special land use application and recommendation to City Council, zoning text amendment, we had 4 of those, zoning map amendment, 1, planned unit development, 1, and final site plan change, 1. So no final site plan extensions and no sign exemptions in 2024.
I think it's good. Maybe Mr. Gearbaugh disagrees with me. I always think it's valuable, particularly for Planning Commission and some of our more impactful boards and committees, to do a formal report before City Council with some visuals that's usually conducted or performed by the chair and support staff. So at a minimum, yes, let's forward this to City Council, but if there is a desire from this body, or if Mr. Gearbaugh concurs, I think it would be valuable sometime in the next maybe 30 to 60 days to have a special presentation mentioned at the top of our council agenda to receive the annual report from Planning Commission.
And generally, it's just a short presentation. I think one of the things that's nice about it is that it actually gives planning an attempt to give a communication to the community at a council meeting, what's been accomplished and done. So it's real simple, maybe a couple pictures of whatever we've done. I mean, for me, when I was looking at this, I forgot that Mitch Rhodes' project was called Just in Time, or
Just a few.
Just a Fuse, I'm sorry. And I was like thinking, who is that? And it's like, okay, and I was keep thinking autos, but yeah, that's fine to do something simple like that. It's very short, not a long. And maybe
5 minutes.
ready for council to ask one or two questions.
There you go, Chris.
Welcome, 2025.
Truthfully, it would help, either I might myself or Adrian, we can help if you don't feel comfortable with doing some of the.
I think ideally the presentation is staff and the chairperson.
No, I
Yeah.
absolutely do it. The Livonia build the PUD, we still have not heard anything from Danny Berry, just as a follow-up. But I think he said February, when he'd get back, so.
But assuming the report is approved, I'd try to work this into one of our February agenda meetings.
Yep.
I'll move to accept.
Second.
Without amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Mayor Morrow, zoning board.
Yeah, so the Planning Commission has sent a liaison to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the past several years. It's has been Chairperson Young. Prior to Chairperson Young, it had been former Commissioner Beardsley, and before that it had been Commissioner Heft. All the individuals have done an outstanding job. Chairperson Young has asked to rotate off, so we need to find a new representative from the Planning Commission to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Zoning Board of Appeals usually meets on Thursday evenings, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Adkin.
Yes, not every month, though, only on an as-needed basis. I think this past year they met twice.
Okay, so I would say averages between 2 to 6 times per year. Mr. Adkins was gracious enough to review the Enabling Act, and it cannot be either myself or Mr. Gearboss, since we're members of the city's legislative body. So if any of you are interested in the ZBA appointment, please follow up with my office. I'd like to make that appointment sometime in the next month or so.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled for February 12th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Is there a motion on the table to excuse the absence of Mr. Fosdick?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion on the table to adjourn at 7:32? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's a card for